Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Marguerite with Wreath by Marguerite, and today we are making a new kit for the fall. I even dressed for the occasion with my pumpkin shirt. It's July, but I'm wearing a pumpkin shirt, yes. I'm sure everyone will look at me funny. But we're doing this kit today, which is our first of two fall kits for this year. The kits are always storm door wreaths. This is a storm door wreath. If you're asking yourself, what is a storm door wreath? A storm door wreath is a wreath that looks big and fluffy from the front like you see here. No big fluffy bows on it, but it still looks big and luscious. But when you turn it on its side, it's less than 4 inches deep, which is a requirement for you to be able to put a wreath behind a storm door or a screen door. You get 4 inches of space on a standard storm or screen door between the two of them and your regular door. So this fits perfectly. Whether you fluff up the ribbon like I have or leave it nice and flat, it'll work perfectly there. So follow along while I put together the kit for this wreath so you can learn how to do this yourself. My kits are available in the shop, or if you just want to take the information you learn and trek out on your own, by all means please do, and let me know that you've done so. So let's get started. Alrighty, so let's first go over the supplies that you'll get in your kit. First of all, you will get written instructions that go along with the tutorial you see here on YouTube. Feel free to write all over this and watch the tutorial once, taking notes before you try to put the wreath together. I find that that's helpful for a lot of people. It's got all the information, step by step, even the things that I've pre-done for you in the kit, so that if you decide you want to do this on your own, you can. Gives you all the details, sizes, lengths, what to do. All right, then you're gonna have a wreath frame. The wreath frame must have 4 rings on it. See how there's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then there's 6 crossbars right there, okay? It's important that you have that so you get the right placement of each of the pieces of mesh and ribbon so that they slightly overlap in such a pattern that it helps to keep it nice and low, since it is considered a storm door wreath. But again, remember, you don't have to put it behind a storm door or a screen door. It can go anywhere. But the design is supposed to stay under 4 inches deep, and that's why you follow these different guidelines to do that, okay? So 12 is a common theme in the storm door wreath. You have 12 pipe cleaners, you need 12 pieces of each of the ribbon you're going to use, and you're going to need 12 pieces of deco mesh. That's the first thing to tell you. So first on the frame, the 12 pipe cleaners go like this. The outside 2 rings, rings 1 and 2, you put the pipe cleaners around at the crossbars. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then the other 6 are placed on rings 3 and 4 in between the crossbars so that they're staggered evenly. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? So I'm going to set that aside. The deco mesh, this is a poly burlap. That means it's mostly plastic, but it looks like actual burlap. Helps it to hold up better in weather. This is 10-inch mesh. Comes in a roll 10-inch. They go from anywhere from 9 to 12 inches. You'll be okay with any of those, but the standard is 10 and 10¼ inches. I've pre-cut them in the kit for you at the length that you need them to be, which is 20 inches this way. You should have 1 extra piece of mesh as well as 1 extra piece of each of the ribbons, so that if you make a mistake, you have 1 backup. I try not to put a lot of extra stuff in the kits so that the prices can stay down and you're not ending up with a bunch of extra materials you may or may not use. If you decide this is for you and you're going on, yeah, you definitely want to have extra so you can do more than 1 project. But with the kits, like I said, it's minimal so that you're not left with extras, okay? Then the next thing is you can use 2 to 3 ribbons in the storm door design. You can either do 2 or 3 2.5-inch ribbons, or 2 or 3 1.5 inches, or a combo of both. In this design, I've chosen a 2.5-inch checked square. I'm not sure what the exact name of that is. It's got white little checks on it. Checks. So this is rust colored. So this is 2.5 inches, and I've already pre-folded all your ribbon for you to the length that you need it to be, which is also 12 inches, okay? Then I did a solid chocolate with a glittery edge on it in the 1.5 inch wide. Again, all of the pieces are folded at 12 inches, so it's easy for you to cut. And then the leaf with all the glitter. I tied in the glitter from this to this. All of these elements are colors from the sign or a little bit more sparkle so they match each other. Generally, the sign is what I use to dictate the colors. You can do all patterns, you can do all solid colors. It's entirely up to you. It's mix and match, whatever you think. It really is going to look good as long as you stick with the color palette you see in your sign. You're either going to get one bundle of each ribbon folded, 12 or 13 pieces. You need 12 for the project. Or you might get 2 bundles of each because of where I cut it on the roll of ribbon. You can usually get 2 wreaths and 1/4 out of each roll of ribbon because they're 10-yard rolls. If I do take ribbon from 2 different rolls, I make sure that the colors match exactly so you don't have any issues with the colors not matching. I know it would bug me, so I want to make sure that you have it right in the first place as well, okay? I've already pre-folded the bundles for the ribbon except for a few to show you. If you want to see every single solitary one cut, I have an abundance of videos now that you can go back to from the beginning of the year, 2024, to look at me cutting every single solitary piece. But for the sake of time, I do that a lot less now. So this is the 3 ribbons cut and prepped, and this is the order that I want them to be seen on the wreath. So I always put them finished side on the inside after when I folded them in half, and then I tuck the top into the middle and the middle into the bottom ribbon and put everything over to the side so I can just go right through the wreath very quickly. So right now I'm going to move the ribbon aside because we won't be using that yet. We're going to start with the mesh and the frame. Here's your sign. This is an MDF sign with a 6 sticker on the top. These are very popular, and this is a very popular size for making this type of wreath. It's basically the size and shape of a license plate. So since it's MDF, I can use staples. So I've taken the 2 additional pipe cleaners and cut them in half and stapled them to the sign. Important point here. Don't ever use staples that are more than 1/4 inch deep because most of these signs, if you go any deeper, your staples are going to come through the front of the wreath sign, and you don't want that to happen. If it's less than 1/4 inch deep sign, you can either take some of that foam, that colored foam that you use for different projects, craft foam, and cut a square out and stick it on top of the back of the sign and staple the pipe cleaner through that. That will help give you some distance between the end of the staple and the front of the sign. Then when you get metal signs, if you watch some of my other tutorials, you'll see how I handle them there. I'm going to go ahead and take this sticker off because nobody wants that on their sign, on the wreath at this point. I just leave that on there till the last minute usually. But then again, when I'm doing tutorials, I try to make sure this is done before I get started because it's boring and you don't really want to see this. And this one's being extra difficult. Usually these kind of sign stickers just peel right off, but no, not this one. Also be careful with the front of your sign. Either lay it on some bubble wrap when you're working with it to put the staples in and to get your stickers off, because you don't want to do what I just did and just slip it back and forth on the table because you could cause scratches and cuts on the front of it. If your cutting mat is clean, that shouldn't be a problem, but I always recommend to take the extra precautions so you don't end up wasting a sign. And in most cases, except for kids, most people only have one of a sign, so if you mess up your sign, that's not going to be fun. You may have to start a totally different project or order the sign again. See, that one came out nice and easy. Easy peasy. Okay, the next, we're going to put this out of the way because we don't need it right now. The next step is to go over tools. I don't have one here because I do this at the art center, but make sure you have a trash can for all your waste. You don't want it laying around on here because, again, it can scratch the signs. It's going to end up getting caught up in your wreath because especially the mesh is like Velcro. Everything sticks to it. All right, so trash can, a good set of scissors. I use fist scars. They're my favorite. Some wire cutters, a ruler, a chip clip. Sometimes I need some needle nose, so I always keep a pair with me. I don't think I will need them in this wreath. And then I use this 6-inch plastic embroidery needle to pull the pipe cleaners on the back of the sign through the mesh without having to struggle so much with it. These are available on Amazon in multi-packs. They're relatively inexpensive, but I would get 6 inches or longer. I had some of the little ones for in-person classes, and I think they could have been longer. And then this is just a wooden dowel. You could either use a pen or a pencil as well. They're about the same diameter. This is just for making curly cues with the pipe cleaners on the top layer if you do that, and we'll go over that more when we get there. So your primary tools right now are going to be your ruler and your chip clip. This is an extra hand and helpful device. So, okay, first thing you want to do is you want to take your wreath frame and put it in front of you, and always remember to move the wreath as you're working on it rather than contorting your body to work on it. If you're working on this pipe cleaner, make sure it's in front of you, okay? First thing I do to eliminate hassles when I get to that point is I take all the pipe cleaners on the outer ring and spread them out horizontally, because the mesh is going to go into these pipe cleaners vertically. So pipe cleaners horizontal, deco mesh will be vertical. Okay, get these all set so I'm not struggling when it's time to put the mesh in. Trying to give you all these extra little tips I learned along the way so that you can start a little bit more ahead of the game than myself. So we take our first piece of deco mesh, and it's always curl side down on a storm door wreath, okay? We want to curl it down, and the first thing we want to do is find the center, because we're going to be gathering down the center from one end to the other. I use the chip clip to mark that halfway point, as well as keep it holding down, because as you can see, it gets pretty curly and the mesh has a mind of its own. So this is 10-inch mesh, so I'm going to take my ruler, and okay, this is 10.5, so this is 5.25 then is our center point, which is right here. Okay, then I'm going to flip it around and uncurl it and do the same thing on this end, okay, and find my center. Now, if you don't have a ruler, you can still do this without the ruler. That's the nice point about the different options you can use to make this particular style wreath. If you don't have a ruler to find the center of the mesh, you just have to fold it in half, and then your finger there tells you where to start. So I'm going to put the ruler aside. I'm going to use it a few more times to get you used to it, and then after that I'm just going to do the folding in half technique. This is a solid colored mesh, so it's important that you do that. But if you're dealing with a mesh that has a pattern in it, it's not as hard to stay on center, but this helps me focus on staying down the center while I'm gathering it, okay? So the next step is to take your thumbs on the outside of the mesh where the center is, and then use the rest of your fingers to crawl up, making small gathers to that chip clip, helping you to stay centered as you go. Because when we get to the top, we're going to take that chip clip off and get it and put it into your index finger and your thumb, holding it loosely. Because what we want to do at this point is to adjust the mesh so that it looks like a circle and your edges match up. So these should match up, these should match up, and it should look like a circle. It's kind of hard to see it because some of it's ruffled. You'll see in just a minute. Okay, I'm going to put that over there. So I'm going to bring the frame back over to me, and this is the pipe cleaner I'm going to work on. So like I said, I'm taking that mesh vertically into the pipe cleaner, okay? And I'm going to bring it up on each side. See why it's easier to just have the pipe cleaner in place. Bring it up and around the mesh, and I'm going to make it nice and tight and low. Twist it 2 to 3 times. Usually 2 is enough that you can manipulate the mesh without it popping back open again. And also, I've said multiple times in many videos, the deco mesh frays. There's no avoiding it, there's no stopping it, but the less you handle it, the better. And when you're working on it, cut all your stray pieces off as you go so you're not having to find it all in the end. because you want your wreath to look nice and finished for your customer. The other thing that I forgot to mention so far is please wear short sleeves. I recommend it highly because, again, this stuff is like Velcro. It'll stick to everything. And definitely don't wear any good clothes when you're doing this, okay? So, back to the mesh. So now what we're gonna do, we still have it right in front of us. We're gonna take the outside cut edge over the inside cut edge, and then the outside cut edge on this side over the inside cut edge. And it's not terribly circular, so it's easy to fix. Most of the time you can fix that in the pipe cleaner without taking the mesh out and re-ruffling it. But if you just can't get it right without too much manipulation, take it out and re-ruffle it. The reason we put those outside cut edges over each other in this fashion next to each other rather than this way is so that those cut edges are the least exposed possible. That also eliminates a lot of the fray. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna hold it from the pipe cleaners. Never hold it from the edge so that it doesn't open up. That's why I do that. And then I'm just going to adjust my mesh, grabbing it down towards the pipe cleaners to get my nice circle. And then turn it under, the edges of the mesh, turn it under as much as it'll let you, because sometimes it won't let you, to make sure that everything's circular. Bottom line, don't struggle too much. What's most important is that the outside edge is nice and circular because that's what's going to be seen. Once the ribbon and the other layer of mesh is put on in the sign, no one's going to see the inside. But do your best to make sure it's as circular as possible, okay? Now when I put the mesh in, I do every other piece, that way it layers well too and nice and even and it has a nice pattern. So I'm going to skip that one and I'm going to go to this one with my next piece of mesh, okay? Curl side down on the table. I'm going to use the ruler a few more times like I said. So we determined it was 4 1/4 because it's 10.5 inch mesh. So I'm going to put that clip there. Once I get to the pieces of mesh down here in the center, they're going to be really curly, so I may have to put a weight on it. At home, I usually put my phone on there. I'm not going to do that for now, not for the tutorial. Okay, so we're going to use this once again on this side a few more times. There's our center, and I'm going to gather it in my thumbs. The thumbs stay outside of the mesh, and I gather it with the rest of the finger in very small gathers, ruffling it all the way up, keeping it as close to the center as possible, using that clip at the top to help you stay focused on the center line. Get up here, take that clip off, get it in your index finger and thumbs loosely, and adjust. Okay, so that came out easier. I always find like the first, for whatever reason, it seems like always the first piece of mesh is, you know, difficult. It's okay, we get through it. So now this pipe cleaner is horizontal to me, so now we're going to take that mesh vertically into the pipe cleaner, making sure that pipe cleaner is in the center, which is where your thumb and forefinger are. Make this nice and tight and low when we twist it 2 to 3 times. So 1, 2, I'm going to stop at 2, okay? And I don't think I mentioned it over here. The reason we want it tight and low, again, is to keep it under that 4 inches of depth. So we're taking the outside cut edge over the inside cut edge, the outside cut edge over the inside cut edge, and then curling the edges and as it allows. Because sometimes they just pop back up and it is what it is. Don't spend all day making sure it's right, because it's all going to lay on top of each other and hold itself down. So I'm skipping this one again and going to this one. Grab another piece of mesh, curl side down. This whole layer, I'm going to do it with the ruler. Then the second layer, I'm going to do it without the ruler, okay? 5 1/4 inches is my center, so we're going to clip it there. And I didn't do any trimming because that one wasn't as frayed. Some people use wood burners to cut their mesh. There's a little bit of fabric in this, so I wouldn't advise it. If it's an all polypropylene or poly for sure, you can, because it's all plastic. You could use that. But I don't find that it really is necessary for this type of wreath. So 5 1/4 is my center. Gather with my thumbs on the outside. Gather it up the center, staying as straight as possible, focusing on that clip at the top. So I do. It likes to maneuver around on its own, doesn't it? Okay, we gotta get that there. Loosely in the thumb and forefinger to keep it nice without ruining it, because if you tug on it, especially from the edge, you will change the design in the mesh, and you don't want that happening. Okay, so here we go. Horizontal pipe cleaner and vertical mesh. I like to turn the wreath, as you can see, just a little bit. So again, I'm not contorting my body. The wreath is doing it for me. Makes it easier to handle. Get some fray there. As soon as you talk about it, there's some, right? Okay, get these pipe cleaners up and out of the way. So I'm going to take that outside cut edge again over the inside cut edge, outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. And this is way off. So I'm going to grab the pipe cleaners and I'm going to grab it under here, but again, down by the pipe cleaners to even up this edge and get my circle right, because it's not looking very circular to me right now. Look at that mess. Okay. Turn it under. I think I need to go right in here and bring some of it out. Standing up will definitely help you see your circles better. I sit and stand because I can't do one completely sitting down and one completely sitting up. I gotta mix it up. I have issues. All right, there you go. Let's see. This is still kind of pointy there, so I need to pull right there where it's pulled in a little bit to get that. There we go. And we are not grabbing it by the edge, okay? So now it's time to add the other 3 for this layer. I already got my pipe cleaners in position. And then we curl side down. There we go. It was bugging me. All right, let's get 5 1/4 inches. Flip it around. I'm still gonna leave that on there for now. Find my center again. It's a nice warm day here. Definitely t-shirt weather. I'm gathering it in my thumbs and my index finger and my, I'm mixing up my steps. Hopefully you caught that too. So, gathering it in my thumbs, keeping up with all my fingers to the top. I'm at the point where I've made a couple thousand of these, so it's all second nature. So I have to watch and make sure that I slow down and give you the right information. So, but if you ever have any questions or are confused by what I say, be sure to shoot me a message in the comments or to the YouTube email address. So now that one's ready. Loosely on my thumb and forefinger, coming back over here. Put it on that pipe cleaner that's horizontal, tight and low 2 or 3 times. Take that outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. That one's gonna have to be adjusted, I already can tell. Outside cut edge over inside cut edge. There is no such as perfect in wreath making, so don't ever beat yourself up. If it comes out less than perfect, you can always try it again. Okay, that looks more like a square. I'm not feeling that. So let me make some adjustments. This should be pulled out here. This should be pulled out here. And then curl that up. If you don't gather it enough, sometimes it's more difficult to deal with. There we go. One of the residents, aka puppy dogs, just had to put their 2 cents in if you heard it. It's a real world here, folks. All right, so let's move that. If you notice, I keep moving it aside when I'm working on it, on the mesh, so that I don't catch everything on it. So the ruler 5 1/4 inches. Turn it around. You're definitely going to want 3 or more feet of workspace to work in. It makes it a lot easier so you're not feeling so cramped and uncomfortable. Give yourself some room. All right, so back to the ruler. 5 1/4 inches. Gather into the thumbs using all the other fingers to gather it up the center, bringing it all the way to the clip, and then releasing the clip, holding it in your thumb and forefinger, getting yourself a nice circle, and then bring this over here to the pipe cleaner, which is horizontal, putting it in there, okay? One more to go on this layer. Clip any gray off. Oh, that one just was loose. There's that one. Okay, that works. So outside cut edge over inside cut edge. Outside cut edge over inside cut edge. This needs to be, let me see how it looks. This needs to be pulled up. This needs to be pulled down. Remember, I'm holding the pipe cleaners at the base to keep from the mesh coming out and twisting. Some spray. And let's get this final one done for them. This layer, and then we're going to work on some ribbon. I get the ribbon all ready at the same time rather than doing half for the bottom layer and half for the top layer. Just, it speeds the process up along and gets all of the mechanics out of the way. So you can move on to the fun stuff. Not that it's not all fun. 5 1/4. Turn it around. I'm gonna put it up there. That's where I really need it. 5 1/4. So put those thumbs off the mesh and just start gathering it with the rest of the fingers into your thumbs. I could go super duper duper slow in the gathering and make sure it's absolutely as close to perfect as possible. But this world isn't perfect, so why should your mesh be, right? I'm kidding. You do what's best for you. I'm just giving you guidance, some basic instruction, and then you can modify it as you feel fit. Whatever works best. And I'm able to give you a bunch of pointers because I've been doing this for a while. Made about 2,000 wreaths so far. I don't really count much anymore after 7 years. But yeah. Also, when you prep all the materials first, the process of putting it together is much easier, I think. For example, in the fall, I do a lot of shows during the holiday season. That's our busiest season of the year. And there, I remember in 2022, I was doing shows every weekend in September and October and early November. I don't do that many anymore. And I would have to make anywhere from 8 to 12 wreaths a day to refill my shop for the next weekend. Let me tell you, that was rough, but I did it. And then after that, I decided, you know what I'm gonna do? Is I'm gonna pre-make kits. So just how you get the kits when you purchase from my shop is how I had everything prepped, plus all of the cutting of the ribbon design on the top, so that I could quickly assemble. It takes me about 35, 40 minutes tops to assemble them now that I've taken on that technique. So just a little FYI advice. Okay, the first layer's done. So now we are going to prep our ribbon. Like I said before, I got most of them done, so I'm just gonna do 3 of each of these. I will advise you that there are some troubleshooting tips in some of the older videos. Make sure you go back and watch some of them at the point where we're cutting the ribbon so you can see how to recover if you make a mistake. There's most of the mistakes you can come back from. There's only one that I know of that you can't, but it gives you a lot of great advice on how to correct any mistakes you make. I always advise my students that if you're new to this, only cut the ribbon one ribbon tail at a time. That way if you make a mistake, you haven't ruined the whole bundle of ribbon. Okay? So I still do it one at a time, most of the time. I don't want to waste ribbon. I'm frugal, I guess. So this is just 3 of them, but I'm going to do the solid color ribbon first because that's the most complicated. It's not complicated, but I found a way to make sure I don't screw up, so I'm passing this advice on to you. So there is a finished side of every ribbon, and there's a back which is unfinished. And on a patterned ribbon, you can see the difference from the front to the back. Where on a solid color ribbon, for the most part, you can't. This one a little more because of the glittered edge. So I fold them all so that the finished side is facing on the outside with the whole bundle, one side and the other. And I usually put a finger in the middle and cut where it's folded on both ends first. And then, knowing that this is from this side of the bundle, finished side is up, finished side is down. So I'm gonna flip these immediately and I'm gonna fold them in half immediately. That way I never have to come back and go, did I do that right or not? Is that the front or the back? I hate second guessing myself on stuff like that. Plus, if you have to walk away from the table to do something else and you've done this right away, you don't have to, again, figure out whether it's the front or the back of the ribbon. So that's those 3. I'm gonna do these 3, putting the finger in between where it's folded. So these 2 are finished side up, and you can see the difference on this one. That's the finished side down, so I'm flipping it. And then I fold them all exactly in half, making a nice solid crease at the bottom. That's gonna be your gauge for gathering it when we get to putting it in the wreath. So nice crease down there, folding it in half. You're putting the finished side of the ribbon against the finished side of the ribbon on the inside of the fold. Okay, let's do it with this one. And like I said, remember, if you go back to some of the other videos, you'll see me do every single piece of ribbon if you want that much detail. So we're taking that finished side, putting it in the center, folding it, excuse me, allergy season, yuck. Okay, let's try that again. Finished side on the inside, fold it in half exactly. Nice solid crease at the bottom. Finished side on the inside, fold it in half, a nice crease. Okay, the next step is putting these pretty little V's. We often call them dovetails. V's, just an accent, gives it a little bit more character, dimension. So when you're cutting the ribbon, this is something you need to tell yourself with every piece of ribbon. You're gonna take that folded crease side down on the table. Make sure you take the top of it where it's cut, fold it wire to wire, and cut from that fold here to the wire at a 45-degree angle. Now, while you can cut a deeper V, it's not recommended because what happens is if you do a V that comes way down, your ribbon is going to buckle on itself once it's in the wreath, and that's not attractive. So let's do it with the rest of these. Folded side down, cut side up. Wire to wire evenly, cut from the fold to the wire at a 45-degree angle. Folded side down, cut side up, fold in half, cut at a 45-degree angle. And there are your V's. Let's do that next. Brown, folded side down, wire to wire, cut at a 45-degree angle. Make sure you have your trash contained too. Oop, there I go again. I'm trying. I really want to get to that apparently. Fold it side down. Fold that wire to wire from the fold to the cut. See, I did it again. Folded side down, cut side up, wire to wire, cut from the fold to the wire. Folded side down, wire to wire, making sure they're even so you have the same size and shape V on each side. So you're cutting from this folded side to the wire. Make sure you're as close to the very tip as possible, because if you come down further, you're losing length on your ribbon tail. Okay? Do it enough to make sure that your V's are complete. Fold in half, folded side down, cut side half up, 45-degree angle from the fold. So folded side down, wire to wire evenly, cut from the folded side to the wire at a 45-degree angle. Okay. Trash out of the way. Okay, make sure my board is clear. And now I'm going to make my ribbon tail bundles. So remember, this one I want on top, and you put them in any order you want. I want this one on top, then I want the brown next, and then I want the rest. So I can continue to put that in the pile. Top, middle, bottom. Top, middle, bottom. Okay, so now all my bundles are complete. I need 6 for each layer, so I'm just going to take the top 6 and then put the others aside. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Put those aside. If you're wondering why this one has all this gathering on it, because this is my test packet, I wanted to make sure the colors went together well. Often I do that. So I'm going to go ahead and use that first. So I'm going to take it from where the fold was, right here, at the bottom of the stack, and I'm going to gather it up the center and put it in my thumb and forefinger, but then I'm going to take my other hand and pull the ribbons towards me into an upside down V. Okay? I'm going to go over here and I'm going to put it in the pipe cleaner vertically. Now with the mesh, the pipe cleaner was horizontal. With the ribbon, it's vertical. So we're going to put that ribbon in there, and we're going to make this make a twist that's about 1 inch tall after we twist it 1, 2 times tightly and low. Then we're just going to wrap it up to make a twist that's about 1 inch. What do we got here? 11 to 12. So I got plenty of a twist. And then we're going to cut the excess pipe cleaner off, because you don't need that. This is just going to be tucked into the mesh on this bottom layer. On the top layer you have a couple different options, but for now we're on the bottom layer. We got that in there. We want to make sure the ribbon is facing the outside of the wreath as much as possible, and by making that upside down V, you're doing a better job of keeping it to the outside of the wreath. Then, depending on what order you want your ribbon in, you lift the top 2 and you bring this out to the front and run your fingers over it as you do to give it a little bit of curl and character, straightening it if it needs any straightening, and then you do that with each one. Now on the bottom layer of my storm door wreaths, I do one side this way, and on this side the rest will be first and the leaves will be last on the top. So on this side, the rest is going to be the first out to the edge. The brown is always going to be in the middle in this particular design. And then the leaves up here. So see, leaf up here, leaf down. Leaf rest here, the rest down here and the rest up there. Does that make sense? And again, just like with the mesh, I do every other, and then I go back and do the other 3 so that they're layered nicely and keeping that profile as thin as possible. These usually end up at about 3.5 inches deep. You can go up to 4 inches and be safe behind a storm door without any crushing. So I've gathered at the crease in my thumb and forefinger, and then I'm going to bring the ribbon tails towards me, and I'm going to put that vertically, the pipe cleaner. Put this in there, tighten low a couple of times, twist it, and then enough to make a 1 inch twist, so which is usually about 6 to 8 twists depending on how tight you make them. Okay, tuck it into the mesh and then position your ribbon. I always lift the top 2, or if I'm only using 2 ribbons, the top 1 up and out of the way so I can have plenty of room to place and manipulate my ribbon. So remember, this side the leaves are going to go on top, so the rest is down here. And don't go back and continue fluffing the ribbon on this layer till we're done with the wreath. Otherwise you're going to do it several times. just get it in place, and when in the very end when we've left the whole wreath, we go back and touch it all. So I like to push it down a little bit. It's up to you. If you're not putting this behind a storm door, by all means, you don't have to be as cognizant about the thickness of it, but keep it in mind. So I open that bundle, go from the crease up the center, gathering it up in my thumb and forefinger, bringing the ends down towards me. There's the pipe cleaner, which is vertical. Put that ribbon in there, horizontal, okay? 2 or 3 times tighten low, and then we're going to twist it up and get our 1-inch twist. Cut the excess off. Not only am I left-handed, I still do some things very strangely, so I'm sure you were looking at how I was holding those, or maybe not, the wire cutters. That's the way I'm most comfortable with. I often mix it up so that I'm not doing it exactly the same way every time. Just me. You do you. I just give you different basic ideas. So we got that all in place. If it gets really bundled up here and there's like a hole, just put your finger up in it and push that out. I call them bubbles. So lift these out of the way, bring this down, and do the same thing with the brown and the leaf. And you notice as I'm bringing them down to the end, I am running my fingers over them to get as many of the wrinkles out as I can. So the first 3 are done. It's time to do the last 3 on this layer. Okay, open your bundle, gather it up the center, pull down your ends, put it in the pipe cleaner, which is vertical, tighten low 2 to 3 times, and then twist upwards. Get about 1 inch of twist, which is usually 6 to 8 twists. Cut the excess off. See, that time I did it differently. You know why? Because I was talking about it. Pop the bubbles out. Position my ribbon. Since this is the lower layer, it's really important to get as much of the ribbon out to the edge as possible, because really only the edge is going to show. Get that up there. Get that one. And with only using wired ribbon, it gives you a lot more control of where it sits, which is what you want. Nothing just fluttering in the wind, making it look messy. Okay, gather it at the center. And index finger and thumb. Pull the ends outwards and down towards you into the pipe cleaner. Twist, twist, twist. Twist, excess. Tuck that stub into the mesh and out of the way. Separate your ribbon. See, have it, I can't stop touching it. I love ribbon. Alright, so one more on this layer and we can move on to the second layer of mesh. Last bundle of ribbon for this layer. Gather up the crease, which is your center. Hold it in your thumb and forefinger and bring down the tips. Those pretty dovetails. 1, 2, upwards 6 times. Cut off the excess, put it in the trash, push that down, separate your ribbon. Other side, I'm doing the opposite, so the rest goes to the bottom, the brown always in the middle, and that there. Okay. Alright, we finished the first layer of this wreath. Now we need to pull the pipe cleaners from the second layer up in between each piece of mesh. There should be 6. If I counted them right. There's another set. Bring that up in between the 2 pieces of mesh. One. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then just like I did with the lower level layer, I'm going to bring them out horizontally so I don't have to worry about it when the time comes to put the mesh in. Okay. Let's see. Hey, attitude there. Okay. So there should be one more set. All right. Let's do it. Now on this layer, I'm not going to use the ruler. I'm going to show you 2 different techniques. So the first half I did the ruler with the clip. This layer, I'm going to use, see how much curlier it is? I use the edge of the table to open it up. I'm going to take this up here for now. And to find my center, I'm just going to take the mesh, fold it in half, put my chip clip there, and then I'm going to flip it around. And do the same thing on this side so I know where to start gathering. There's my center. Now this time, I'm going to do a little bit different way of ruffling. I'm going to start off with the two-handed effect, but then I'm going to put my hand out in front of it and crawl with one hand. I find this is more comfortable for me, and I do just as good of a job, if not better, with the ruffling. Get it up there, it's still the same thing, index finger and thumb. Make your adjustments while holding it loosely. Okay, take it over to the, I feel like I got a bite. Bring it over to the pipe cleaners, centered, twist tight 2 or 3 times. Take that outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. Now you're dealing with the other layer underneath, so you got that assisting you, not outside cut edge over inside cut edge. Let's see, if I curl this under, is it round? No, we need to hold the pipe cleaners and bring this out a little bit more. And again, make sure that that outer curve of the circle is nice and neat, because that's what really matters and what's going to be seen. Okay, skip one again, go to this one. The edge of the table, and just put this here, fold it in half to find my center, put that clip there, spin it around, remembering it's always curl side down. I'm gonna move that up there. Phone is a great paperweight. Fold it in half, and then I'm going to start gathering it, and then I'm going to move my hand up here and just start taking my index finger and my center finger and just gathering it up. Sometimes adding a ring finger in there. Whatever you're comfortable with, alright? So loosely in the thumb and the forefinger. Make your adjustments as you can. And come over to the wreath. Put it in that pipe cleaner vertically and tight and low 2 to 3 times. 1, 2. There's a piece of fray right there. It's just, there you go. I try to always make sure I get the pipe cleaners up and out of the way so I can manipulate the mesh. So I'm putting that outside cut edge over the inside cut edge, and the outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. Let's see, I need to just make an adjustment right here. Curl that under. I'm trying to take it off the table. Whoa. Alright. Next piece of mesh. Get that out. Get that table ready. Curl it and put that weight down. Fold it in half to get my center. Turn it around. You can stay there. Thank you. Yeah, I talk to the materials. It happens all the time. Fold that in half. Make your gathers using the hand. Now I can get it out of the way since I ruffled it enough. I just find I do a better job staying on center when I do it this way. It's entirely up to you. It's whatever you're the most comfortable with. That's the bottom line. Okay? Everyone good? Yep. I honestly, when I'm mass producing when I have it in my thumb and forefinger, I don't make sure it's round because I don't. But then they're pretty accurate. And then I have minimal adjustment once it's in the wreath. But we are doing a tutorial, so I'm trying to be good. Alright, see how pointed that is? And yeah, I don't like that. So get these pipe cleaners up. Hold it from the pipe cleaners, not from the mesh. How's that look? Yep, that looks nice and round. So final 3. And I do look like I have an extra piece of mesh. If you have an extra piece of mesh and some of the ribbon tails left over, you can make a little cheater bow with the mesh behind it and put it on your mailbox or wherever else you want to do it. Fold it in half to get my center. Put my clip on the center. Twist it around. There. Fold it in half. There's my center. And start gathering. Alright. Alright. I need to move my fingers over a little bit to that side to get the circle rather than pulling on it. Bring it over. Horizontal pipe cleaners. Vertical mesh. Tight and low 2 to 3 times. Oof. Don't be afraid of it. I would highly doubt you would break a pipe cleaner. I have only seen it like once or twice ever. Outside cut edge over inside cut edge. Curl up that edge a little bit. So see how little of the ribbon on the bottom layer really shows once you get the top layer of mesh? That's why we want it right out there. If you do this on your own, you can also make the ribbon tails 13 inches long. I've even seen people do them 14 inches long. So that more of the ribbon comes outside the edge. I'm not sure how I feel about that. 13, yes. 14, I don't know. But the people that do it do a beautiful job. One of them being my mentor now, with Melissa Morrow, the queen of the pancake. That is the original name for this, but I got tired of explaining to all my customers what a pancake wreath is because, you know, someone's always got a joke. Oh, you can eat it, it's a pancake. And you know, just laugh along with them because it's new to them too, even though you've heard it a million times. So I just went with, you know, it's a thin wreath, it's a storm door wreath, it's a screen door wreath, and it's easier for them to wrap their mind around them. Although calling it a pancake wreath definitely gives them some comic relief to the conversation, right? So pancake because pancakes are so thin, just like this wreath. This was a godsend design for a lot of us, both makers as well as customers, because, you know, I live in Southwest Nebraska and we get a lot of wind here. And people were always telling me that they were worried that their wreath would come off and fly down to the railroad tracks. That's the joke. Where with this design, it's thin, it fits behind the screen or storm door, and it's not going anywhere. It's definitely protected. Okay, so we're taking that outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. Let me pull that out a little bit. I already know before I've even made the circle. Take that outside edge over this inside edge, because this is way not a circle. Need to bring this down, holding the pipe cleaner. Reach under here and make an adjustment. One more pull. I think I got it. Curl it under. Sometimes when you don't gather it evenly enough, that happens too. So we're not going to see that, so I'm not worried about it. This looks nice and circular. We're all good to go. Spread that final one out. Clip that fray. And there we go. I didn't have any extra mesh today because this was a kit I made for the tutorial, so I made sure I didn't have a bunch of extra stuff. Okay. There. Fold it in half. Get my center. Turn it around. It's fighting me. Stop. Fold it in half. Okay, start gathering. Put it there to where the clip is. Alright. Hold that loosely in your thumb and forefinger. Make your circle, never grabbing the edge. A lot of talking going on here. I get dry. Put that in the pipe cleaner, tighten low a couple of times. Look at this water. Pardon. Better. Take that outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. The outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. Turn those not corners, there's no corners on a circle marguerite, hello. Okay, get that in there, put these up. Pull that up there, pull that up there. Okay, so now I'm gonna stand up. Because I put the sign in before I put the last set of ribbons. I do that because I like for the ribbon to lay a little bit on top of the sign. And I turned it around because I wanted this one at the top. Just like that one the best. And I spread out my pipe cleaners, making sure one set is at 12 o'clock and one is at 6. So I know where my center is. And then I take this sign, this type of sign fits nicely between these 4 sets of pipe cleaners. And I use that and that to determine my center. So what? The C is my center. So now I know exactly where it needs to go right here. And what I do is I put the pipe cleaners from the sign through the mesh right next to the sets of pipe cleaners that are there for the ribbon tails. And that is where this comes in. You can, and I'll do one, take your pipe cleaner, lift your wreath up just a little bit, and push this pipe cleaner through all the layers of mesh, making sure not to try to go through the ribbon. You don't want to damage the ribbon. And see, I'm struggling because I can't always get it right through on the first try. But that's okay, we keep trying, right? It works. They also have big metal knitting needles, not knitting needles, embroidery needles too if you can't find any of the plastic ones. So once you get it through all the layers, you pull it through. This would be where I would use the needle nose because I'm having trouble keeping my grip. There we go. So remembering the C goes here. When we pull the pipe cleaners through the mesh, we always do it in an X fashion. So from one corner here up to here, instead of going around, this way we're less likely to get our sign in at an awkward angle. This way it gets more flatly placed. So I'm going to use the needle for the other 3, pardon the glare. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it through the wreath frame, through the mesh, put that pipe cleaner in there, fold it over so it doesn't come out while I'm feeding it through the back, lift the wreath just a little bit and pull that through nice with no problems. Okay. So I've done that one and that one. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to do the other 2. And again, keeping them next to the pipe cleaners for the ribbon tails as closely as possible. If you get a longer sign than this, you can't do that. It'll be outside of here a little bit further. You always want to make sure it's hidden under the sign though. So I got that through the layers of mesh. I'm going to put my pipe cleaner from the sign through there, fold it in half, feed it through, and get it off the needle. One final one. So I did this, then I did this, then I did this one, now I'm doing this one. Got that through, fold that over, pull it through the mesh. Okay, so we're done with that. Make sure it's still where it needs to be. This is where I end up and sit down a lot more. Making sure everything is where I want it to be, about an inch or so in from the edge. I'm going to hold the sign so it stays in place, and flip the wreath. And then I'm just gonna wrap these pipe cleaners around the wire frame wherever you choose. I try to make it uniform on all 4 of them, because some people have glass door inserts and you want it to look as finished on the back as you can. I put a little pressure on the wreath when I'm doing this, because I do want it to sink into the sign, to sink into the mesh a little bit, but not a tremendous amount. It's not a good look when you do that, especially if it were a metal sign. We're making sure the points of the pipe cleaners are poked back down into the wreath, so if this is against the door, it doesn't scratch it. You notice I lifted it up to turn it because we don't want to scratch up that sign. Okay? Put that there. Just keep wrapping it around until it is completely used up, and then poke the tip back through. Final one. Little pressure on the wreath, not a lot. Poke that down in, turn it over. So it's nice and flat and even. It's not higher on one side than the other. Push that under there. It's trying to escape. Okay. So now we are going to put the ribbon tails into these pipe cleaners. All 6 of them, sets of them. I always do 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock last, because I like the ribbon to lay on top of the sets next to it. Again, it comes down to dimension and personality of the wreath. So we're going to take these last 6 bundles, and I usually do this one, then this one, this one. Okay, and then I change it up a little bit on its placement. So on the top layer, we're not doing that inverted V where we make sure that the ribbon is out to the edge. We're doing more like a starburst. Give it a little bit more coverage on that mesh, because your mesh is your solid foundation. It's not meant to be seen a whole lot. Unless you really like the mesh and you really want to see the mesh, then you could do the inverted V and more of your mesh will show. So we're going to, again, gather it at the crease just like we did on the bottom level. This time we're just going to take it, and we're going to take those pipe cleaners and make sure they're vertical. Put those in horizontal, the ribbon tails. Tighten low 3 times. 1, 2, 3. That's enough to hold it in place. And then we're going to take these ribbons and we're going to separate them out in the fashion that we want. So I'm going to put the rust one up against the sign and the leaf on the outside on this bundle. I'm curling it as I go to give it a little bit more depth on it. If you're putting it behind a storm door wreath, you can leave it flat after you've spread them out. Either way is going to work, because even with these little bundles popped up curly, they're not going to look mushed behind the door, even if they flatten them a little bit. So on the bottom level, I did both sides of the ribbon bundles differently. On the top, I always do them the same. Get those out. Okay. Now this is where the next decision comes in. You can either twist them up like we did on the bottom layer. And then what you do is you cut a little off and then you tuck it behind the ribbon, and no one will ever see it. But I'm going with a little different technique I like to do. Okay, put these back where they're supposed to be now that I've played with them. I'm going to do the curly cues. That's where the wooden dowel comes in, and if you don't have a wooden dowel, that's where you would use a pen or a pencil. So I'm just going to wrap the pipe cleaners around the dowel and curl it down to the base. I'm going to leave them down there, or you can pull them up so you can see the curling. I'll show it to you that way on this one. I curl one side one way and one side the other way, right? So if you want to see the curly cue, you can just bring it out like that. Let me telephoto it. See that? It's still kind of hard to see. There's a little glare. For this one, I just curled it all the way down. Okay. There we go. So I'm just going to tuck it in. You can embellish it with other things here as long as it doesn't go above the height of the ribbon. You can put buttons or, you know, all sorts of different things. Felt shapes that look like leaves or something. I've done it in some of my other videos, so that's why it pays to watch the other videos. In the sunflower wreath, I use sunflower buttons, so that's a great one to look at as well. So let me gather this in the center. The pipe cleaners are vertical. The ribbon is horizontal to me. And you notice again, I'm still turning the wreath 2, 3, so that I'm not contorting my body. So now, since I did the rest side first, closest to the sign on that one, I'm going to do it the opposite. So now I'm going to come out, again giving it some more pattern and definition. Get that curliness in there because I like that. Take my dowel, twist that pipe cleaner around it. If you don't want to keep this little curly cue, that other technique will give you just a little bump of pipe cleaner there at the top. If you don't want to see the pipe cleaner at all, that's what putting embellishments in that spot would be good. So I'm skipping that one. I'm going over here. I'm doing this one and then that one. Lay it out, gather it up, put it in the vertical pipe cleaners, tighten low 2 to 3 times. And you could wait till the end and fix all your pipe cleaners, but I just find it makes more sense to do it as you go, because then you don't have to come back and worry about forgetting it. I've done that. I've gone to taking pictures and go, oh, I didn't finish that. Oops. Bring that ribbon out just like we've been doing all along. Okay. You can also keep them nice and straight. It's up to you. See how that one's nice and straight? But I like that little bit of curl. Really shows you how fluffy you can get it. And the standard screen door, storm door, give you 4 inches of clearance between them and your regular door. So these fit just perfectly. And the only reason you know they're thin is if you look at them on the side. But on the top, they look super fluffy. All this beautiful ribbon. But you see why also that it's important to use wire ribbon? It stays where I put it for the most part. Put that in there. Tighten low 2 to 3 times. So that was up, so now that's going to be down, meaning the rust design, okay? So, and then let's get that. That one the other way. All right, so now we're going to go back and do 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock, and we will be finished. Put that in there, gather it, center it, twist it 3 times. So since that is up, that is going to be down on this side, the rust color for 2.5 inch. There's that. Curl, curl. Same on this side. How you place the ribbon is entirely up to you. This is just what I'm comfortable with the most. That one just doesn't sit right. These are awkward. Okay. And again, I'm keeping this on top of the bundles on each side. I'm going to stand. This one. standing, I'll be better able to see if it's even too, the ribbon. Okay, so I'm going to bring that up there and that up there so that they're in the same place. Flip it around and do this very last one. That's there. Place that in there. 1, 2, 3. So that's closest to the sign, so we're going to take those closest to the sign. Get those curlies going on. Pop out any bubbles I have. Twist that pipe cleaner. This one the other way. Okay. So now I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to go around the outside, lifting the top layer mesh up so I can make sure all this pretty ribbon is facing the edge of the wreath so you can enjoy it as well. And then do one final go through on the ribbon on the top layer to make sure it's all placed where I want it to be. Where is it? There it is. Reason you lift the mesh up because if you just drag the ribbon out, you're going to end up snagging it. And the ribbons frays too. Not as easily as mesh, but the less you handle it once it's complete, the better. Otherwise you'll be trimming. Okay, I think that's it. Get that out of the light. Oop, too far. Okay. See, I have the benefit of looking at it through the camera to see if I need to make any adjustments. The same concept can be achieved if you take a picture of it with your phone, because it looks different on your phone or in a camera than it does to you in person. And there you have it. All finished. All right, there you have it, a completed wreath in very little time, less than an hour really. If you'd like this wreath, it will be available as a kit, so you can make it just like I did, or you can purchase it pre-made. If you don't want to do the work yourself, that's fine. I'd be happy to do that for you. I appreciate you spending time with me today here on YouTube. If you like what you saw and would like to see more, feel free to subscribe. I'd love to have you along with the rest of the people that are joining us on Sundays. Speaking of Sundays, I put out my videos on Sunday afternoons, usually about 1 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. That's my goal. New content virtually every Sunday unless something comes up. I also have other avenues to stay in touch. I have a Facebook page, Etsy page. That's the shop where everything is sold. A Instagram and Pinterest, and on everything you just have to look for Wreaths by Marguerite and you'll find me. Again, thank you again for spending your time with me. I know you could be doing anything, and the fact that you spent time with me today out of your schedule is much appreciated. Thank you all and have a great day. Bye-bye.